Hi, my name is Krzysztof. I'm head of product design at Monterail, and we are here today with Gregor, CEO of Guild, and Aga, senior product designer at Monterail. Hello, hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, hello everyone.
Yeah, we're here today to discuss product development, especially how design and business relationship works in Guild. I know that over time, you develop some methods or unique methods to tackle your specific challenges in the project. So, first things first, Gregor, can you describe your main areas of focus in Guild? I know that you are CEO, but what are the things that you're focusing on right now?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Guild's a pretty small business still. So, yes, I'm CEO, but I'm also the product lead. So, I'm very much involved in the product. I kind of lead. I'm effectively a product manager at Guild. And Guild is a community for professionals to connect and network via communities. It's very app focused. It's very mobile messaging focused, if you like, in the same sense that WhatsApp is very simplistic in its design, and for us at Guild, we're trying to grow the business. We're trying to, we've got a pretty good foothold in the market, and we are growing, and we've been successful. But we're trying to grow more, so we're trying to reach more clients, kind of establish ourselves in the market. And so we're always got an eye on trying to kind of improve the product, trying to find that product market fit and optimize that product market fit. And a big part of that for us is in the design, because what we're trying to do is to be a very simple, easy to use kind of mobile first messaging app for professionals. And so getting that design right while still packing in lots of features is a significant challenge, but it's definitely a priority. It's that simple usage.
Yeah, sure. So from your perspective, what's the USP of Guild?
So we are working in a relative niche in the market. It's a community and networking app for professionals, and it's just focusing on that kind of connecting with each other and messaging with each other space. There's not many other competitors that are working in that space, so we've got that USP, in a sense. But I regard the USP more specifically as being the simplicity, just how easy it is to just open it up, start doing what matters, making meaningful connections with people, having meaningful conversations. There are lots of other features, lots of other things you can do on Guild, but what we've managed to do is to just really have that simplicity front and center.
Hence this relationship with the design team. I'm guessing, yeah.
Yeah.
So the common thing for you is that you've both joined Guild not at the very, very beginning of the product development life cycle, right? The product was already there. So was that a challenge for you? And maybe Aga, you can start if you want.
So let me first maybe introduce myself. So my name is Agnieszka Kozłowska, and I'm a senior product designer. And I've been working here at Monterail for almost 5 years now, and I'm in the product design area for over 7. And in addition to my work, I'm also doing a PhD in psychology. So, well, at least I'm trying to. Okay, yes, and I joined the Guild like around a year ago, year and a half, maybe. And if you join a project that's already going on, it's always a challenge. It's a design challenge, we like to say, because there were a lot of design discussions and design decisions that were taken along the way, and they resulted from different assumptions, of course. So when you design a new feature, you need to take all of this into account, and because one thing changed here can have an effect on many different things around. So you just need to take this into account. And when dealing with a project that has already been around for a few years, and that's the case of Guild, it can also be challenging for a designer to distinguish between the new and good stuff that were designed and the bad and old ones, because things aren't always designed holistically, let's say, and we are perfectly aware of that. So you need to learn all of that too. So that was the first challenge that I've noticed when joining Guild. And the second big challenge was that when I joined the project, the design and the development phases were quite separate from each other. So imagine you're a product designer and you need to design a feature. And so you've received your business requirements, so that the requirements from the client side, and you need to combine it with your kind of understanding of the user's needs. And
Sure.
you of course could do some UX research to back up your design decisions upfront, but you can use your intuition or just your experience in similar projects to do it. But you're combining basically the business side with the user's needs side. And if you confirm it with the client, you then take it to the development team so they can implement this. And that's the problem, because it often happens that the things you've just confirmed with the client are not technically feasible. So that's what makes the design process pretty challenging if you have these phases separate, because
you were acting as a kind of a bridge between the client and the development team.
That's exactly right. Yeah, there are a lot of back and forth discussions which take time and effort of everyone in the team. So that's not very effective and optimal way to do it, of course. So yeah, just to wrap it up, it's not enough to balance the user's needs with the business needs. You need to take the technical part of it, because it's just a holistic approach.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Gregor, from your perspective, what were the challenges here when you joined the product that was already there?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not the founder of Guild. The founder, Ashley Friedline, who's still part of the business, but I took over as CEO from him last year. I joined Guild just over a year ago, so it was the beginning of 2022. And by then, Guild had been a very founder-led initiative. Anyone who's familiar with kind of founder-led businesses within that nascent kind of early stage, the founder does what they have to do to get things done and get things and deliver. But there comes a point. So to begin with, it's the most efficient way to get started is to just essentially have a dictator, the founder, who just says what has to happen and then just instructs. People either
at the very, very, very early stage.
At the very, very early stage, yeah. So it makes a lot of sense to be like that, but you need to transition out of that. So me joining Guild was the trigger to start making changes around that. So what we'd had was a very loose, very unstructured method for identifying what needs to be done, specifying what needs to be done, communicating what needs to be done to a team who are then actually going to deliver that thing. So it was very loose, very unstructured. And so one of the first things I had to do was to just put a bit of rigor around it, bring in some actual product management expertise to introduce a lot more robustness so that we could ensure greater quality of the output, more efficient throughput of our delivery, greater clarity for the team that are delivering. And it's just as well that I started implementing those things really because very shortly after I came in, Aga joined. So the team had not had a product designer before that point. They'd had someone who did like UX designs, but it wasn't fully proper product design as part of the product delivery team. So they're able to do like high definition designs in order to communicate what we wanted something to look like, but they weren't.
So the designer wasn't a part of the delivery team.
No, they weren't part. No, what would happen was the founder Ashley, he would say, "Oh, I want this new feature," and then he would go to a freelance designer and ask that. Well, not quite freelance, but a contract designer, and ask them to essentially draw up a high definition design of what it would look like. And so they're doing a little bit of product design, but they're not working with the technology team or anything like that. They're not really going. It's very assumptive kind of flat design, and then that would accompany then a request going over to the delivery team to say, we want this feature and we want it to look like that. And then what you'd end up having is a technical delivery team going, okay, I have 1,000 questions. And then
nobody to ask this question.
And not really having a formalized way of figuring these things out. So, who knows, how long it would take before that technical team knew what they were actually being asked to do. And sometimes they would figure things out, down the line, sometimes too late. And that can be a challenge for your efficiency of your delivery, challenge for the people in the team, just having clarity, knowing what it is they're actually trying to achieve. That's okay. That's founder-led stage. It's a bit more shooting from the hip, we'd say, like it's a bit more guesswork, kind of figuring it out as you're going along. But there does become a point where you need to introduce greater robustness, greater maturity, so that you can ensure that what you're spending time and effort on and money is going to work. It's what you actually need. It's gonna turn out well. It's what the users actually want. It's going to drive the metrics that you want, and it's going to be executed well. And so there was a lot of it was a bit wild before, and so I introduced a kind of a lot more robustness just to make sure what we were doing was much more effective. And I've pretty fairly experienced working with various product teams at various product orientated businesses, and one of the things I've learned that a product team needs is clarity. They need clarity, and they need clear decision making. And as a product manager, that, as far as I'm concerned, that's the most important things that I can provide to allow that product team to be as effective as possible. And so those are some of the things I had to kind of those are kind of my goals, really, to introduce a robustness and a structure that allowed for that, so that product team know exactly what they're doing and why.
Was the decision to go with the external team? So at Monterail, we are a service provider. So you built a product development team using the external team, right? We are not a part of in-house team for Guild. So was it a challenge? Because from time to time we are hearing that there's no way to achieve a level of good information flow, level of ownership when you are trying to do things with the external agency. So what's your take here?
Well, I think that can be the case, but it depends on the quality of the relationship, and I very much feel that we work as a partnership, and I think, like, in theory, you would say, yeah, well, I want Guild to be a tech business, and so the technology should be created within Guild. Like that feels like an aspiration. That feels like something we should want to do. The reality is, we're a small business, and we've got a fantastic partner who are delivering what we need better than we could do ourselves. And it's the right choice for us right now. It's the best way for us to deliver right now.
Yeah. Aga, can you, perhaps Aga and Gregor, you as well, can you tell us what is the process right now? How do you work together? I've heard about deep dives and some other things that I don't exactly understand at this point. So if you can tell us more.
Oh, of course, yeah. We somehow felt that we need to take care of all the problems we noticed like a year ago, and all of the back and forth discussions and all of the communication troubles, let's say. We create a cooperative space. We call this thing just a deep dive. So the whole idea was that so that Gregor, the development team, and I could just meet in one room and work more closely together. So we meet like on a regular basis. It can be once a month or every 2 months, and we take from the business roadmap like 2 or 3 major problems or features. It's more about the problem itself than about the feature at this point. And we use some.
Meaning to ask that is it on the level of well-defined task feature, or more of a challenge? I would say
almost never. Gregor always comes to us with a problem, well defined, but it's still on the problem level, and it's on us to deal with this with the solution to the problem. But yeah, so the deep dives, we use some different workshop activities. It depends on the need of the problem, of the scope of the feature, or let's say the extent of the problem. But the best part about the deep dives is that the whole team is present, so we are able to explore, analyze all of these problems from just different angles, taking into account the different perspectives, because we are all experts in different fields of product development, product industry. So that's.
How does it work? Like you are working remotely, right? So it's not that you can meet on site every Tuesday to discuss some things. Who is involved? Is it the entire development team, along with the project manager and designer and CEO? Can you tell us more about the structure here?
But the way I look at it is I'm a product manager kind of by training, I guess, and that means I'm inherently obsessed with process and being efficient, because that's one of the things we do as product managers. And when you have a mature product delivery behavior, product delivery cycles, using sprints. One of the things that product delivery is very, very good at is breaking down all of your sprints into small tasks and allowing everybody to collaborate effectively, but often facilitating asynchronous working. So people not working together, like we collaborate, but we're not working at the same time. We're off doing our own things. So we take big challenges, we break them down into little pieces, we delegate the pieces out to different people. They go off and do their little bit, and then it all comes together in a release. And that's one of the things that we're really, really good at. But what that means is, it means that you need to counterbalance that with rituals where you come together. And so mature product businesses will have things like, product teams will have things like stand-ups where they come together and they agree on what we're doing today. But they also have things like retrospectives where on a regular basis you come together and you have a talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what can we improve, etc. A deep dive is just another one of those rituals. It's just an acknowledgement that sometimes tasks can't be broken down. They're not ready for that yet. Sometimes there's still outstanding challenges. There's still kind of thinky problems, right? Things that, we need to think about, right? And we don't have the answer yet. And it might be a design answer. It might be a technical answer. We're not quite sure yet. So a deep dive is just an opportunity to get everyone together and to essentially come at a problem and have all the brains, all the skills in the room, because we don't know where the answer is going to come from, and we don't know where the exceptions or the challenges might come from. So a designer might say, "Oh, this is obviously the perfect way that a user would want to experience this," and then the back-end developer might go, "Well, yeah, but that data is not there, so we can't do that," or the other way around. So it's the nature of the fact that these things need a broader exploration. They need all the skills in the room, and from a process point of view, it's kind of that antidote to the way in which we've made our processes really efficient. It's kind of acknowledging the fact that sometimes these things are, the process isn't going to solve this. You just need to come together in a room and maybe be kind of inefficient for a couple of hours, but you're going to answer the problem.
Yes, and I also think that when everyone is involved in the process, they just become more involved in the involved and invested in the project itself. So of course we can identify some potential issues, problems earlier before they become bigger problems at the end. But I just think that it all combines, it all leads to a better product design in general. Just sharing perspectives, noticing different angles of things, and and being engaged, being invested in that we are all share the same common goal.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that goes on from what I was saying about the tasks being broken down and things like that, because sometimes you can over-engineer these processes to the point where for the purpose of efficiency, but the experience of someone in that production line can be a bit disconnected. Like, I've been handed a task now that I have to complete, and I don't really like the decisions that have been made here. I don't understand why that's that way or this way. And it's inevitable compromises have to be made in almost everything that we design and build. But when you're involved in that discussion and when you're involved in that decision making, you accept those compromises and you understand that, well, that is the right compromise to make.
You understand where it's all coming from, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're a part of decision process.
Yeah. So it's I think it's a better, it's a more motivating, I guess, experience for the various people involved. When it comes to them doing their bit, they've got that wider context. They're more bought in.
Right. I think it can increase the way you feel connected to the product, or have a sense of ownership of what you are doing. But I just wanted to go back. So the way you describe it, Gregor, it seems like this is not another refinement session. It's more from the way I understand it. It's not on the level of, well, here's the task and we need to refine our way of thinking about it to make a better task description. It's more of like working in the problem space. Like, I don't know if
backlog grooming, all these kind of things, they're all very important rituals, but they're kind of meta work that just helps you stay efficient. And they're very important, but they're not necessarily about providing space to just think and to ask questions, maybe, you know, dumb questions, maybe really challenging questions. You know, maybe you need to go really high level, maybe you need to go right down to lower detail. You know, it just provides, there's less structure, purposefully less structure. It's like that, you know, how it's much more kind of, here's just a problem, what do we think?
Yeah, but you know, it requires a certain level of trust that
Yeah.
the way you feel connected with the team, you need to trust that you are working with the A players and so on. So are there any was it, you know, very easy for you to develop that kind of a process, or was it, you know, is it a hard-earned wisdom that this is the way to go?
Yeah, I definitely had to learn that. Definitely. I mean, I'm an engineer by training, you know, a long time ago. But you know, I like solving problems, so I want to solve it, and then I want to just tell you what to do. Right? that's what my instincts are, and that's what I used to be like when I was, you know, years ago. But as anyone, I guess, matures, becomes more senior in their career, they learn that you can't do everything. You're probably not going to get the right results if you try to do everything. And the best thing you can do is surround yourself with brilliant, talented people and find ways to get the best out of them. And I think in product, a lot of product processes and a lot of like tech company kind of theoretical approaches to how they run teams, and that a lot of it really is about, you know, just empowering the incredibly talented people that you have in your team, and allowing them to do their great work. So a big part of that is kind of relinquishing control, trusting in the skills and the abilities of the people around you, stopping yourself from trying to go too far down the solution path. You know, there's a discipline in articulating problems, not articulating solutions, and appreciating and valuing the quality that you'll, although it may feel less efficient to do it that way, the output, the quality of the output is always going to be greater, because you've gone through a process that's just increasing your chances of coming to the right conclusions.
So
but yeah, it is difficult.
It might take longer, but you are increasing your chances to get it right the first time. This is
yeah. I mean, well, there's a very old adage or old quote. You know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is. I'm misquoting it, but the general idea is, yes, it would absolutely be a lot more efficient and quick for me to just say, do this. This is exactly what it needs to look like. Do it. But
top to bottom,
you're not going to get the best result. You're not leveraging the skills and the capabilities and the breadth of knowledge and experience and insight and intelligence of the people around you. You're almost definitely not going to get the best answer, and you're definitely going to be blinkered and blind to a lot of things. You need to allow space for challenge and questioning and people going, really? But don't get me wrong, sometimes that's like a turbo switch. Sometimes you just need to do that, right? Sometimes it's just like, you know, the business needs something, let's just do it. I think I've done that once in the last year. Once maybe. And you know what? We delivered something that was garbage. It was my fault.
When you changed the approach, like there was a business reason to change it, but
yeah. And I forced through something. I said, we just need to do this, and I didn't really observe the usual processes that we'd established, because I just felt that we just had to fast track something,
Mhm.
and we did it, and it didn't work, and I regretted doing it. So, you know.
Aga, from the designer's perspective, and you are very experienced, and you work with in a lot of different projects. So what are for you? What are the main differences between the way you work in Guild and the different projects that you've been involved in?
That's actually a fantastic question. Where to begin?
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe let me take a quick step back and tell a little bit about the differences between the product design and UI design in general. Because while some people might think that the product design is mostly about the visual part, that's not the case. So product design basically focus on the entire path from the first concept of the product to launch, basically. So it requires identifying users' needs, balancing them with the business needs, of course, and checking the technical feasibility. So everything that we've already discussed today in this webinar. So as a product designer, we design the product's, let's say, overall user experience, and of course by working closely with the whole team, with the client and with the development team. But we also have a chance to touch upon the product strategy. Can we say something like this? Yeah. And yes, of course, we also take care of the UI part, but that's like something that's at the end of the process. It usually comes at the very end. So it's more of a result of many discussions, like concepts, research, sketches, and so on. So yeah, the product design is just a broader term, and UI is just a part of it. And yeah, because UI involves creating like the color scheme, picking fonts, yeah, just ready to implement layout. That's the summary of UI, and it's of course a crucial step in product design as well, but that's not the only one. So in the Guild project, I just have a chance to be a product designer at fully. So not just someone who creates beautiful screens and just fulfills the business requirements, or maybe like the very specified features. Gregor, as a client, comes to us with a problem rather than a specific solution to this problem, and this allows me, for example, as a designer, to fully explore and analyze the problem, see it from different angles, and come up with some good solutions. And that's the only proper direction, I guess.
Yeah, and that's really critical for Guild, I should say, because what I said at the start. You know, we're always tempted to keep adding things onto Guild because we want it to be able to do more, right? Features, you know, bolt on more features. Yeah. But the USP, the thing that customers tell us about Guild, and the thing that I'm trying to maintain as much as possible, is that it's really easy to use. It's really simple. It feels like this almost impossible combination of I've got all the features I need, but it's really simple. It's not confusing, it's not overwhelming, and it's always trying to find that almost kind of like impossible kind of sweet spot between those two things. And so, you know, I might come in and say, we've got this new problem, how do we fix it? There might be some really elegant way to solve that same problem without bolting on a new feature. If I was a little bit different and came in saying, we need this new feature, you know, we just end up piling on things. And so having that strong product design thinking and that space to kind of push back and say, look, there's a holistic kind of a philosophy, I guess, to the way this product is designed, and you may want to solve that problem, but instead of dealing with that like a discrete thing that's just going to end up with a new bit bolted onto the product to solve a discrete problem, we can actually maybe absorb that problem in a wider kind of holistic solution. So, and then saving, creating greater complexity in the app. So it's just so important to like the essence of Guild and the success of Guild that we allow product design to kind of lead some of the thinking and how we address problems.
Yeah, at the same time, the Guild was already built. The product was there when you joined. So there is this topic of design depth and adding more features without looking at the big picture. So how do you handle that? This is not, you cannot say, well, scratch all of that. we are starting new.
No, but I'm very open to dropping features. I'm very open to repurposing features. We've done that quite a lot. So we found a feature that wasn't really being used very much, and we've just adapted. So for example, we've got a new challenge, a new thing we want to achieve, and we've got an old feature that isn't really being used that much, or it's not being used in the way it was originally intended, and we've managed to find a way to repurpose the existing feature to address the new challenge that's arisen. So we've managed to be efficient by looking at the product holistically and sitting back and thinking, well, what is a user going to need here? Instead of just dealing with it in a discrete manner and coming in with like a new feature to be bolted on, we've actually managed to repurpose things. We've done that a couple of times quite recently, very successfully. And now instead of having two features, one of them not really being used and generally greater complexity, we've got one feature that's used a lot.
Yeah, that's ideal. Yeah. Also, when we discussed the deep dives, can you tell me about some examples of I would say challenges that you tackle with the deep dives approach? I heard about a notification system that was redesigned.
Some of the most complex parts of the system, like the redesign of the whole notification system, that's and by definition it's not the easiest thing to do. So we managed to create I think kind of user-friendly and great notification system that takes into account all of the channels, the notification channels. So that was quite complicated, just to not go into much detail here. But yeah, and something about the benefits of working together also on the like parts from only from the design parts. So I really appreciate all of the discussions, the design discussions. And even if we are discussing like some high level concepts during workshops, during deep dives, which we often do, I appreciate the opportunity to deep dive into some details with the team members, just to get to know all of the perspectives and create eventually something that it's not only beautiful but also fulfills the user's needs, and it's technically possible to be implemented. And yeah, we all work in the IT industry, so I believe that we all know some great design patterns because we are quite educated. So it's not, I feel like it's not only me who has this kind of expertise here. So yeah, And if it's of course my job then to propose like the final solution, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's a teamwork thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
and
very
so that's everyone can have something valuable to add here.
Yeah. So it all seems like a very a mature way of doing things in the product development process. So Gregor, I know that you have background in leading design related projects such as design systems implementation. You've worked with product designers before.
Mhm.
So from your experience, do you feel like there are a certain prerequisites or things that needs to happen to achieve this effective, productive product designer business relationship?
Well, yes, I think a general kind of valuing of the expertise is important, and understanding what it really means. So I could give a bit of description earlier. The difference between UI and product design. The analogy that I use, because it's just easy to remember, is a train station. You could, designing an app or designing a highly functional website, not just like a marketing page, but a highly functional website that does a lot, is like designing a train station. There are a lot of people that are going to come through this thing. They all have slightly different needs. They're all trying to get from one place to the other. There are many complicated kind of permutations, lots of complicated scenarios. There's commercial interests. There's, there are technical kind of resources to consider. There's so many different things to consider. And how do you design that layout? Like we wouldn't consider the person that designs that train station to just be making pretty images. It's so much more kind of dynamic and complex than that. And a lot of what AGA does and what product designers, and the reason we give them a different title is because it does encompass something quite novel, something quite new, that didn't really exist, 15 years ago, unless you're working on a very large, complicated website. The emergence of apps has really kind of proliferated the need for this kind of skill set. So I think just appreciating the complexity that this individual is facing when dealing with these kind of challenges. I think appreciating also that when you don't have a product designer in your team, everyone's doing it. So the product will be designed, right?
Yes.
But if you don't have someone,
product will be built.
It will be built, yeah. So
Yeah.
if you don't have someone who is specific, so say you have a product manager and you have a project manager and you have some software developers, right? The product is going to be designed between those people, and
Yeah.
but they're not really. None of them are really responsible for that. If you leave it to your front end developer, say, which is I think basically what we did before AGA joined, they're having to solve all these problems while writing code, or maybe the product manager is doing that, is kind of defining these problems or dictating these problems. But you're essentially leaving probably the most important thing to be a shared responsibility amongst people who are not necessarily an expertise in that area. So, and it is the most important thing. Like our business is an app that people download and use. If they don't like using that thing, they will stop using it. They will cease to become a customer or a user of our product, right? So it doesn't matter how cool the functionality is in the background. It doesn't matter how good the proposition is. If they don't like clicking and swiping around this thing, they're just going to stop using it, right? So it's so important that you have somebody who is, competent, who is actually thinking about these things and taking these things seriously and asking questions and making sure that in all the product management that we do and all the software development that we do, that we're actually looking after what the experience of using the app actually is and how you move around and get the best out of it. So I think the main prerequisite especially for a product manager or a client, I guess. But in this sense, I regard myself as a product manager because I'm part of the product team. Is that they understand the importance of this. They understand the importance of good design and a good designer, a product designer, and what that responsibility actually entails. So I think that's the main thing. I think then it's on to like the things we spoke about earlier, like trust and empowerment. Read any book on product management. Empowerment is the one. Empowered teams is the main theme. You want to create a system where you are a process where you are you're presenting problems and you're allowing some very smart people who have all the skills to use those skills to come up with the best solutions.
Yeah.
And then again, knowing how to get the best out of that team, allowing space for a designer to go high level, go low level, like I was saying before, and not trying to control that too much, because all design is holistic. Again, think of the train station. If someone wants to put a shop at the front of the train or put a kiosk at the front of the train station, you might need to think about how does that affect the flow of people down into their platforms. There's knock-on effects, right? So
why not? That's another feature.
Well, exactly. So yeah, I think the main prerequisites are whoever is leading, whoever is, I suppose, dictating the terms upon the ways in which the team operates, the priorities, the decisions, that they understand and appreciate the importance of good design and having that at least somebody who's able to lead that for you.
Yeah. Aga, how do you like the train station metaphor?
Very much. But yeah, all of this wouldn't be possible without the real feeling of real partnership here. And there is a transparent communication between us, lots of feedback, and yeah, like Gregor said, a strong sense of trust. So that's why it's possible to achieve all of the things that the product design offers.
Yeah, I feel like you talked a bit about the business value of design, Gregor, and if you can expand on that, like what is the value of design for you?
Well, so yeah, the things I've spoken about are I guess quite easy to say and maybe a bit theoretical, but where are the numbers, sort of thing. That's a little bit harder. But the way I think about is in two areas. So the first one is I've already touched on already. Is the UX, the experience of using your product. For guilds, our brand, like our business, like everything is in that screen and how it swipes around and how it behaves. And when you click that button, what does it do? Like our entire business is in there.
Well, when you use the train station metaphor, I was thinking that yes, it's very complicated, and of course, it's not. The task here is not to make it look pretty,
yeah.
But there is also this, specific user perspective that for the user, well, there is an action to be done by the user. He needs to go to the certain train. He needs to go to the certain destination. So for the user, for the unique user, it should be as simple as it gets.
Exactly. And the train metaphor, you can keep going with it, the signage,
yeah,
the way they move people around, all that kind of stuff, but it's probably gone far enough for that. But yeah, just what I was saying there, it's, so when I used to work at BT, is a large telecom company in the UK. And one of the things I used to have to work on was trying to help very senior, like the board, understand the importance of investing in digital, because you think that our company exists in television adverts and the phone book and old things like that, but it doesn't. Our company exists on a screen. Like that's how people experience your company nowadays, on a screen. And Guild is a technology company that is app based. So our entire existence is in that very small rectangle. And if that very small rectangle isn't pleasing you while you're using it, or it's irritating you, then that's a serious problem for us. So, I mean, it's almost a ridiculous question, really.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what is the business value of design? Well, it's our whole business, so it's absolutely vital. So,
But
that's
the question, why should we go into the direction of digital transformation? It also feels absurd, right?
it
Like,
does, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
But some of it is intangible.
Yeah.
Which is the problem. Is the problem that I mean, I've worked in digital transformation for a decade or so before I joined Guild, so it's a very familiar kind of story. But the thing that is more tangible, and in the way we work, and the reasons for why Aga and I have developed the process that we have, is that we significantly increase our chances of getting new work that we are creating, new product changes. We significantly increase the chances of those being right first time. And when you get it right first time, not only do you get the advantages that you're seeking, whether that's a metric you're trying to hit, or growth, or more money, or whatever it is, you significantly increase the chances of success of what it is you're trying to achieve. You also significantly decrease the likelihood that you're going to have to spend more time on this thing after you first delivered it. Because if you rush through, you'll deliver it and then you go, oh, it doesn't actually work the way I thought it would, or oh, users aren't using it properly as much as I thought, or there'll be some kind of negative consequence, and you'll often have to redesign it, redevelop it, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, or whatever. So if you spend that time up front, you're just massively increasing the chances that it's going to be right first time. And also, especially if you're able to spend time on user research, analyzing data, all those kind of, just coming at it from as many different angles as possible, and increasing the level of kind of information and insight you have coming into it, you're just more likely to just deliver good stuff, basically. And that means, bottom line, that means you're able to deliver more, because you're making much more efficient use of your resources. And by resources, I mean Aga and the rest of the product team.
Oh. Yeah, sure. So for me, it seems like you designed almost perfect model of working together. Is there anything that you can think about that you can improve in the process? What are the next steps for you in terms of improving the collaboration?
Well, we never had a chance to conduct a proper user research, so it would be great to tackle this as a next step in the near future. I'm thinking mostly about user interviews, for example, to create, of course, to better understand our users, and then to create some user personas based on that, and just to keep them in mind when we design and discuss all the things. That's very helpful. So that's for starters, and then we can perhaps organize some user testing to gather feedback and just check with real people if whether the app is usable and user friendly, and every information there is perfectly understandable by them, and just to check with our audience that it makes sense. What would you say, Gregor?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I don't want to give the impression that we don't have any connection with our users. I mean, it is a community platform, and we do have various communities where we're able to tap into user insights, and we do listen to customers a lot. But we're not doing it in any kind of systematic way. And I think as any kind of operation grows, to begin with, it doesn't make sense to like develop frameworks that you work within. You know, you just need to get on with the work, right? But at a certain point, when you have a certain number of people who are collaborating, it becomes useful and efficient to actually develop standardized kind of frameworks in the way you work. So like design, for example, UI design, I'm sure people will be familiar with like a style guide, for example. And when you start out, you often don't have a style guide. You develop it a little bit later because you've got multiple people who are all kind of designing, and they need to subscribe to the same kind of centralized rules. We need something similar for our understanding our users. So, so for example, personas. So personas are the kind of things that you develop to help kind of distill the typical users based on proper insight, proper interviews, proper research that you've done. You've actually figured out these are our 4 typical users, and whenever we design, we've got these people in mind. And we, you know, and it starts to introduce that into our behavior. So when we have these workshops, you know, a legitimate question would be like, whoa, who are we designing this for? Oh, we're designing it for, I don't know, Jane or whatever. And Jane is a particular type of person who has a particular type of use case and particular type of sentiments.
Right.
And that's
what is the answer to this question right now?
Needs.
Yeah. What is the answer to this question right now when you are asking yourself the question, who is this for?
It's ad hoc. We might have a recent, if we're trying to solve a problem that's been raised, we might have a specific. Is it a
role in the product, like a host or a member?
It'll often be a particular client or a type of client, a customer. Sorry, we don't use the word client, customer. And they may have, you know, specific needs, whether they're a host or whatever. So we'll often, but it's ad hoc and needs based, whereas which is it's okay. Like I said, you know, you start small. And that's absolutely fine to do it like that. But there comes a time where it becomes more effective and you're more likely to be consistent and coherent with your design solutions if you are actually basing around like standardized kind of personas, for example. So I think things like that would be really useful for us.
I have this impression that the research activities are already there, but it needs to be more. There needs to be a framework developed.
Yeah.
How do you approach this? And also, you are using your own product, right? You're dog fooding or drinking your own champagne.
Yeah, we are dog fooding. We're eating our own dog food. Yeah, the Guild team use Guild as a messaging, like a team messaging app. So we use it ourselves a lot. We use it for our investor communities. We use it for our customer communities. We use it for, I've got a product advisory board where I have a trusted group of kind of product experts who I talk to there. So yeah, we use it ourselves a lot. So, you know, a lot of the knowledge and the insight, you know, comes from us, but look, we're obviously hugely biased. So we need, you know, we do need to develop that more robust user insight methodology, definitely. It's just going to improve our output.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan. Thank you so much for the discussion, and I'm glad that we covered a lot of topics around product design and product development. And yeah, see you around.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.